Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the March 27th Diversion Authority Finance Committee meeting. Please call the meeting to order. Don, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Here.
Mayor Mahoney. Mayor Carlson. Here. Mr. Steen.
Here.
Ms. Thompson.
Here.
Ms. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Redlinger.
Here.
Mr. Grimberg.
Here.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
I'm here.
Mr. Reitz.
Here.
Ms. Madriga.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you, Don. Item number 2 is to approve the minutes of February 21st, 2024. It is in the attachment in your packet. It's on page 3.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner. Grinberg, it's been moved. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Peterson, second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of February 21st. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is to approve the order of the agenda. Again, it is before you.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Peterson moves, Mayor Carlson seconds. Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 4 on the agenda is the approval of the bills. We call on Susan Thompson. It is in the attachment. It's on page 6.
The list of bills for the month through March are listed for your review. Mostly, well, all typical things, a total of $3.2 million. The largest one was for Clay County. In addition to this, we'll be talking about it in further agenda, but the city of Fargo did wire $12 million for the item that's listed on 9B. We'll talk a little bit later about that. That will show up on next month's report. Any questions?
Any questions? Any questions by anyone?
Move for approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Grinberg. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Pipcorn, second. Been moved and seconded to approve the bills as presented by Susan Thompson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Don, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Redlinger.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Reitz.
Yes.
Ms. Madriga.
Yes.
And that includes everyone.
Thank you, Don. Item number 5 is the finance report. Again, we call on Susan Thompson. It's on page 24 of the packet.
Page 24 of the packet lists historical and year-to-date financing sources. We'll move to page 25. That is the statement of net position. We have diversion project fund, total assets of $253 million, budget fund of $211, so grand total assets of $253,908,216. There's also some small liabilities of $163,797. So the net position for the entire project, $253,244,419. Any questions?
Are there any questions? Any questions on the financial report? I'd entertain a motion for approval.
I move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Peterson moved. Mayor Carlson second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 6, we call on our Deputy Executive Director, Martin Nicholson, for a financial report.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to, where is our executive director?
Chairman Grinberg, Mr. Paulson is out this week, but he is online and on the phone and able to answer questions if you have.
Is it on PTO?
I believe he is, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Please continue.
Yes, Chairman Dardis, members of the committee. Begin with the annual revenue status. And for the sake of brevity, I'm just going to summarize the numbers. If you have any questions, please interrupt and and ask them as I go along. The total revenue sources this month were $3,861,000 against an annual approved budget of $216 million, bringing us to date of about $9,182,000. The overall status for the level 1 summary, again, in looking at the bottom line of the report, we are actual cost to date just over $1,047,000 against a program ETC of or estimate to complete 1.695 billion. I'm sorry, that first number was a billion. Our current fiscal year, 17,393,000 with against year 216,313,727 budget. If you look at level 2 detail, I won't go through the pages, but as Peggy scans through, happy to answer any questions on any detail that rolls up to the numbers in the level 1 summary.
Anyone? Questions? Commissioner Peterson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know it's going to make me look stupid, but I'd rather look stupid than not know. When I see on summary 1, when I see the line item for interest and financing,
Yes.
what are we paying? I'm going to guess it's like a loan origination for some relocation of the existing loans that we had, the big 150 or whatever, but just for clarification.
This is, what line again, Chairman?
So if you look at level 1, you're probably about, right about P3 reserves, you're probably 60% of the way down the list. Net current interest
Net current interest
financing.
and financing fees. Yes, those are for the outstanding short-term loans that we have
That's the
with
big
both
bank.
Bank of North Dakota and others.
Okay, I figured, but I'd rather ask than not. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Please continue.
There is one more summary page in your packet, which is the Diversion Authority Operations Budget Summary. Cost to date of $267,327 with a remaining budget of the year of $1.382673 million. So again, stand for any questions on the information.
Any questions on the financial report? This item is for informational only. We'll move on to item number 7. DA Board Approval Contracting Actions. Again, we call on Mr. Nicholson. And he
Yes,
has
there
2
are.
of them to discuss with us.
There are 2 contracting actions for your consideration today. The first is the first task order under a master services agreement that came before the board last fall, and it is for basically mowing and landscaping services on the properties that the Diversion Authority owns, and that is in the amount of $250,714. Do you want to take these one at a time or together?
Yes, please.
Okay. The second is Task Order 6, Amendment 0. This is a utility relocation for Minn Kota Power Cooperative. This is to relocate some diesel generators that are in the path of the OHB levy project, and it is for the total of $263,000.
Any questions of Mr. Nicholson? I'll leave up to whoever makes a motion for approval.
Mr. Chair, question.
Mr. Peterson.
Thank you. Mr. Nicholson, in the past, we looked at weed control on a number of various projects, and I can't remember how many years ago back it was, but it wound up being cheaper having the county provide the weed control services, and I'm probably micromanaging here, so tell me to shut up, and that's totally acceptable. We have mowing and weed control on this. I know there's no breakdown, and I tried to look through it here again, and I can't find that there was a breakdown. Are we confident that the weed control is of a logical sum where it doesn't make any sense to have the county look at it and separately break this out?
Yeah, I believe that is the case, but I might call for assistance on either Chris or Jody on the amounts.
And again, no one in the room can hurt
If
my
they have
feelings.
amounts.
by saying, don't worry about it.
Yeah, you're all fighting to get up.
And the only reason I'm bringing this up, Mr. Chair and Mr. Nicholson, is the fact that the dollar figure was substantive in terms of difference. It wasn't like $2,000 or $5,000. It was tens of thousands we saved. And again, someone's got to operate it. We've got the capacity to do it. So as a straight reimbursement to the Diversion Authority, to our weed control folks, saving us buku money.
So Commissioner, members of the committee, I can't get into the specifics of the breakdown between each of it like others could, but I can say the task order that we have in place covers both North Dakota and Minnesota. And so that'd be another catch with the county is we do own quite a few properties over in Minnesota that we're also managing. And then a lot of these, are rural residential lots, and we're working through the lands committee and going through the excess lands policy to bring that kind of off of our liability and then getting those back into agricultural production. So the goal is to continue to reduce. The other tidbit of this that we're managing is a lot of these properties we're holding for the forest mitigation. And so a bunch of them went under contract this year with the Army Corps of Engineers. They'll be under their maintenance policy for the next 5 years. And then we have one property that we're gonna ask permission from the MCHPA tomorrow. And if we can get that, then we'll have 178 acres that will come off of this next year. That will go over to the Corps, then they'll plant trees, they'll maintain that property, which does involve weed abatement for the next year, and then we'll have another contract. So it's kind of an ever-moving target a little bit. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you. We have a great working relationship with our friends in Clay County and especially in Moorhead. But the MPCA is probably not, is going to be as friendly as our local government entities. So the Minnesota answer is exactly what I needed to hear. Thank you.
Okay, yep.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
And I'd make a motion, Mr. Chair, if you're looking for a motion. Motion to approve.
The motion is for both, to approve of both.
I thought you wanted them separate.
I'll leave that up to the person making the motion.
I'd make a motion to approve both.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Chairman, is that both or first one? Is it both?
Both. Yes, the motion is to approval of both of these items. And second was by Mayor Carlson. Is there any discussion? Any further discussion? Don, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
yes,
Mr. Redlinger.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
No.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Reeds.
Yes.
Ms. Madriga. Yes. And that is everyone.
Thank you. The motion passes. Item number 8 is MOUs and agreements. We'll call on Mr. Shockley, legal counsel, on page 66 of the packet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have one MOU for consideration by the Finance Committee today. It is an agreement with CapEx regarding some of their easements that are currently owned by CapEx and their project partners. This includes access to their easement to operate construction equipment underneath the easement and to do some realignment and drainage and borrow ditches for REACH SE4 of the comprehensive project. It's a pretty standard MOU. The costs associated with it were included within the project estimate and budget. So.
Are there any questions, Mr. Shockley? What is that dollar amount? Do you recall, John?
Yeah, this is zero right now. It's allowing access in to work.
Okay, very good. This is an actionable item.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Please,
Mr. Shockley,
Commissioner Grinberg.
did we approve some agreement last month with some dollars in it?
Correct.
Okay. And so this has no financial,
Not
Impact.
not so far. It's a great question. It's related to allowing access.
I don't quite understand, not yet, or is this solely just access? The
Just
reason I'm asking is I abstained last month because my company's part of the CapEx. And if there's a financial side of this, I'm going to have to abstain again, or a potential for financial.
Yeah, this is just allowing access right now. I mean, I suppose anything could have a potential for financial impact in the future, but we're not projecting any at the moment. If that help, if that's helpful.
Yeah, just to be consistent, Mr. Chairman, I'll abstain again.
Okay. Again, this is an actionable item.
Motion to approve the MOU, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Peterson. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Pipcorn seconds. It's been moved and seconded to approve the CapEx 2020 and Metro Flood Diversion Authority encroachment agreement for CapEx 2020. It's on page 68. Is there any further discussion? Don, would you please call a roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Yes?
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Redlinger.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn. Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Reeds.
Yes.
Madriga.
Yes.
And that includes everyone.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shockley. Item number 9 is the other business. We have 2 items to discuss. We're going to call on, the first item will be Chris Blackagard, engineer for the Diversion Authority. It's on page 100 of your packet.
Thank you, Chair Dardis, members of the Finance Committee. We did have one bid opening for utility work in anticipation for Phase SE3 of the Army Corps Southern Embankment Project this past month. This is for utility adjustments in that area. We received 4 bids on this project. We did receive good bids on this one. We are recommending today an award to Celine Brothers in the amount of $1,749,847.65. And again, the bid tabulation was included in your packet. If you have any questions, I can certainly answer those as well.
Any questions for Mr. Blackagard? Commissioner?
Just real quick, I mean, obviously, this is good that they're underneath estimated budget, so that's a good thing. Would you say that's kind of a trend, or is that, how would you describe it?
You know, my guess on this one is I certainly hope it's a trend going forward. I think it's a combination. The last couple of bids we had had pretty tight time frames, so I think that probably also we adjusted our estimates a little bit to account for that. So there probably was a little bit of a balance here of probably still a little bit of that overestimating in our estimate on this one, but still good bids nonetheless, and certainly hope it's a trend in the right direction here that the contracting industry is opening up a little bit. So, the note that the bidder here is a bidder that hadn't bid on our projects before, so I think that's a good sign too. So.
And they're out of Holly, so that's a good thing. We appreciate having local
That's right,
businesses
for sure.
doing the work, so that's a good thing too. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions for Mr. Blackagard?
Move to approve.
All right. Is there a second, please?
Second.
I have Mayor Carlson moved, Commissioner Pipcorn seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Don, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Redlinger.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Reeds.
Yes.
Ms. Madriga.
Yes.
And that includes everyone.
The second item is on page 103. It's payment and condemnation and acquisition funds to the MCCJPA. We call on Mr. Shockley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an informational item. We thought it would be appropriate just to make sure that the Finance Committee was aware of this issue. There's no action that's required, but it's more informational. As part of the eminent domain process in North Dakota, both Clay County and Moorhead were required to make deposits with the district courts for the appraised value of the property in order to commence the eminent domain actions. And it's a requirement. It's not a offer necessarily. Some of the offers may have actually exceeded what was deposited in the court. What's deposited in the court is the appraised value. So those deposits were made. Because of the size of the deposits, it was difficult for the entities to have those funds on hand and have a quick turnaround. We did envision that there would be times that this would happen within the master indenture of trust and the financial structure, and it allows for administrative action to be taken to make these deposits. Many of these cases are close to resolution. In the event that there's a settlement, these funds would be released and directed back to the diversion authority, so they're really a deposit that's being held by the court. On the page 104, you see the amounts that were for Moorhead and Clay County deposits, along with some of the expected closings that would take place in March, which some of that money will be coming back to the diversion authority because some of it was originally deposited as part of the commencement of the eminent domain actions. So this is more of an informational item. We just wanted to make sure the Finance Committee was aware of the issue. Certainly happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? What was the revenue source for these deposits?
I believe it was just the funds on hand by the authority. There's approximately, there's a pretty significant cash balance that's on hand for these types of land deposits, and it was taken out of that.
Out of the land's budget then? That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Chairman, then this.
Please,
will
Commissioner Grinberg.
This will show up in our financial statements listed as.
I would have to defer to Paul as how this will show up.
So since it was written out by the fiscal agent, the city of Fargo, it will show up as a debit within our fiscal accounting. And so once we get it released back, if there are any settlements, then that'll be shown then as a credit back to the account. But right now, it is showing up as a debit within our system. So it's basically a cash out at this point.
And Mr. Chairman, remind me, how long do we anticipate that debit existing?
That depends upon how long the eminent domain process takes. It could, Minnesota actually has a faster eminent domain process than North Dakota. But when you talk about fast in the judicial system, that is might be a year rather than years. So if there's a settlement, as those cases are settled, then the deposit would be returned. But it's really hard to predict how long that would be back to the authority, but it could be a year, it could be 18 months, it could be 2 years. Minnesota is faster on the eminent domain side than North Dakota, though.
So the dollar amounts, when these were paid, that doesn't report on our financial report? Next month?
It will
okay.
next month, but yeah, it went out on the 18th of March.
Very good, thank you. Any additional questions from Mr. Shockley? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, I did have one quick update.
Please.
Last month, or actually I believe in January, the board had authorized the sale of Cass County Joint Water Resource District's temporary refunding improvement bonds to refinance the ones that were existing that are set to mature on May 1st. We did have the sale. It was a good sale. We had oversubscription of the bonds, which is a good indication that we got the interest rate right. Unfortunately, is not the same as what we got in 2021. In 2021, you'll recall it was 0.6% interest, which lower. It's 3.45 today, so which is still a good rate, but I just wanted to provide the information that the sale did take place and we're set to close on Monday.
Any questions? Mr. Shockley, additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our business for the day. Is there any member of the Finance Committee who has any other business that they'd like to bring forward at this time? Is there any staff member of the MFDA that would like to bring anything forward at this time? All right, thank you for your time. We stand adjourned.